So I was racking my brain last night thinking, what other car in America can you buy that competes with this? The brand new 2015 Volkswagen Golf Mark 7 Sportwagen. In other words, what car in America is a wagon, has a diesel engine that gets over 40 mpg on the highway, and competes with this German vehicle? And the answer is, there isn't any. This is pretty much the last of the breed. And coming up next, I'm going to take it for a drive in Austin, Texas, and review it on the Fast Lane Car. So how does this drive? If you've ever driven a Volkswagen diesel, you'll know exactly the driving experience. What you get and what you see and what you drive are one and the same thing, and that's a really cool thing. In other words, it's a very honest driving experience. There is plenty of road feel. You're very connected to the road. Because it's a wagon and not a crossover, the center of gravity is much lower, so you feel like you can tell kind of the way that the road is shaped. And if I were on the highway, this would be a very fun car to drive. Under the hood, you'll find a TDI, a diesel engine. It's a 2-liter that puts out 150 horsepower and 236 pound-foot of torque. It is, of course, front-wheel drive, and it is mated to either a 6-speed manual transmission or a 6-speed automatic dual-clutch transmission. There's also a 1.8-liter gasoline TSI engine that you can get in this model, but Volkswagen says 80% of their customers are going to go for the diesel. So that's why we're reviewing this one. Of course, here in Austin, it's a little bit trickier. There's not a lot of places to drive, so we need to get video of this car, so we're kind of driving around a park. But even at these relatively slow speeds, I can immediately tell that there's a lot of road feel and then there's a lot of driver engagement. Of course, the stick shift would be much more engaging than the dual clutch transmission, but this is such a great transmission that I think, and I hate to say this, but it's true, this is a much better transmission for this car. From the front, it's all Mark 7 Golf. And that's a good thing, because the Mark 7 is very clean, very elegant, very stylish, very conservative German design. It really is a Mark 7 with a lot more room in the back. In fact, 66.5 cubic feet of space when you fold the seats down in the back. The dual clutch just knows exactly when to put in the right gear. It also works really well with the diesel to give you outstanding fuel economy and an almost 600-mile range on a tank full. Not quite, but that's still pretty impressive. If you hate going to the fuel pump, this is a great car for that. Now, what makes diesels so engaging is that they're all about torque, and this car has over 200 torques, and when you floor it, that's where you feel it. Of course, it kind of drops off the cliff after a certain number of RPM, and that's just to be expected. But if you just need that initial passing or getting on highway speed, there is very little that you'd be wanting when purchasing a diesel. You have to hand it to the Germans. They know how to build a driver-centric interior. I love this very fat and meaty steering wheel. When you get in this car, it says, I am meant to be driven. I also like this piano black lacquer. However, the interior is very basic and very straightforward. There are some plastic bits, but I'm a tall guy at 6'2", and Germans build cars for tall people, so I do fit comfortably. Overall, it's not as much about style, but it's more about driving the car. And that is one of those great German driving experiences that I really enjoy. is a little bit of that diesel clatter that is traditional, but let's face it, these modern diesels, especially these common rail turbos, are just phenomenal, and they've got really longevity, so it's a really engaging drive, and I could see why people would be enamored. And it's also, in a way, the exotic fruit in America. In Europe, diesel is taxed less than gasoline, so people buy more diesels, but in America we've always been more of a gasoline kind of country, and this is kind of that interesting and unusual powertrain that a lot of people like because, well, it says I'm a little bit different, I'm a little bit unique. If you're buying a wagon, you're probably buying it because you want space and utility. And with the seats all the way back, it's a little tight back here for somebody who's 6'2". However, you have to love this very thoughtful and enormous panoramic moonroof. It makes you feel much less claustrophobic when sitting in the back of this car. You know, would I want to spend a lot of time back here? It depends. If the person in front of me is tall, probably not, but if you move the seat forward, it would be very livable. Oh yeah, it's not a heavy-duty truck, but it does have that thrust of power that propels you forward, and that is really fun. And you gotta love the fact that you're getting over 40 mpg on the highway. 35 combined in the city, which is still phenomenal, you know, for a wagon that holds you, your family, your dog, your gear. Of course, you know, not everything is perfect on this. I think that VW is a very conservative company, and it shows kind of in the design of this car. You know, this is a very red car, but if it wasn't red, I think it would be kind of an anonymous car. So if you're looking for something that's a personality car, maybe a lifestyle vehicle like a Jeep, this is more of a sleeper. You have to admire German engineering. In a VW, it's all about simplicity and functionality. For instance, like the way this Volkswagen logo also serves as the opening hatch for a very comfortable and very low loading floor. There are some additional thoughtful touches in this new model. Perhaps the most important are these two levers that allow the back seats to flip forward without having to go and open up the rear doors. And look at it back there. I mean, it is immense for what is essentially a very tidy little car. This is like a double bed. You know what I love about diesels the most? Check this out. When I floor this, it's in sport mode, floored. Look at that. Traction control is fighting to keep those front wheels from tearing loose. It's really cool. There's all that torque. Let's talk numbers. This 2015 Sportwagen, or do you say Sportwagen, starts at $24,595. If you're looking for the gasoline engine powered Sportwagen, then we're at $21,395. Of course, the benefit of this car is that it gets 43 mpg on the highway and 35 combined and almost 600 miles of range. Of course, a nicely optioned one with the sunroof and the fancy headlights. It's more like $30,000. In America, this car used to be called the Jetta Wagon. Yeah, the Jetta Wagon, that's right. And in Europe, it was always the Golf Wagon. And what happened was, for this 7th generation, the Mark 7 of the Golf, VW just decided to go back and call this what this has always been, which is the Golf Wagon instead of the Jetta Wagon. VW says this Sportwagen competes with cars like the Toyota Prius V and of course the Subaru Outback. Now to my mind, the Outback is much more of a crossover than a wagon. It's tall, it's big. And the question you have to ask yourself is, why do people want crossovers? And I think the answer is because people want the Swiss Army knife of cars, a car that will do it all. And Volkswagen is aware of that. They're saying that they're working on bringing over the all-wheel drive version of this. So if you want an all-wheel drive wagon that's powered by a diesel engine, you may have to wait a few years. If you're okay with front-wheel drive, your ride has arrived. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fastlane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real-world Sportwagen reviews. Ciao. Diesel engines have a lot of upsides. Long range, great fuel economy, and of course, very good durability of the engine. But there are some downsides. First and foremost, in America at least, diesel is more expensive than gasoline, and you have to add blue. In other words, this is urea. It's used to clean up the emissions of the diesel engine. And it does add a little bit of an expense to owning a diesel. I like this car a lot. It's just honest, it's just straightforward, it feels solid, it's really connected to the road. And maybe that's kind of the European part of me coming out and just liking the kind of engineering simplicity and functionality of what is essentially a dying breed of cars here. So I guess part of me likes it for its driving characteristics, and a part of me likes it for the fact that there's nothing else like it in America.